So we'll discuss a little bit the second point of yoga, proper breathing or pranayama. Breathing is something we don't think about, right? We're doing it all the time and we don't think about it actually. So yoga teaches that the quality of the breath is very important. So what we want to do is take the attention to the breath and to examine the breath. So typically in the practices, we start in a very basic way. We start with something which is called abdominal breathing, and that's just learning to use the entire respiratory system in the breathing practice. So when we don't think about the breath, we tend to breathe in a very shallow way. You know, it's using only the upper part, the upper part of the chest in the breath. So we want to take that attention down quite deep to the abdomen. And once we learn to use through abdominal breathing and through something we call the complete yogic breath, through that we learn to take our awareness a little deeper into the body, to breathe. You know, if you watch a baby breathing, it's quite a beautiful thing, but if you get this chance, a baby, you can see that the baby appears to be breathing with the whole body. You know, it's not just the chest moving. So we want to kind of go back to that. We want to go back to having the breath with us in our awareness. So, we call it pranayama. So there are two words we can define there. Prana means the life force or the vital energy in the human being. And yama means restraint or control. Learning to regulate that a little bit. And so the breath really determines how our thoughts are happening. So if we use specific techniques to control the breathing, that means we're able to regulate our thinking a little bit. That means we can avoid going into negative thinking. We can avoid some of the mental patterns that we have that which may not be very productive or cause, you know, make us feel happy. We can sort of change that a little bit. And that's quite a profound thing in life. So the pranayama, prana, you know, we can say it's a lot of things. We can say it's electrical in nature, it's chemical in nature. I get prana from everything in life. Everything that I interact with gives me prana. But the easiest way for me to regulate the prana is through the breath. So when I do specific breathing techniques, I'm working with that prana, I'm paying attention, I'm moving prana in the body in a certain way. But I'm also creating a certain balance. Okay, so it causes the mind to be a little more stable, a little more balanced. So the two practices that we focus on a lot in the tradition, one is called Kapalabhati, and this is a forceful exhalation of breath. And what it's doing actually is cleansing the lungs, so cleansing particles from the lungs, but it's also raising the level of prana available within the body. So it's a little stimulating practice. It wakes us up a little bit, and it's a very important way to start the practice. Then we move to a second practice, which is called Anuloma Viloma, and that's really powerful. That's sort of creating a balance. We can say balance, imbalance is the meaning of the word, but I'm creating a balance between the two brain hemispheres, the function, and I'm creating balance energetically through the system by doing that. And so that balance, that regulation helps me a lot. Again, it's changing the patterns of the mind. So when I'm doing the breathing practices, I'm going a little more subtle than I am in the asana practice, and I'm able to really slow the mind down a lot. So these practices, once you learn them and once you integrate them into your life, most students feel like, I don't want to be without this practice, because they understand how powerful it is. So in yoga, what is more subtle is usually more powerful. So again, so we move from asana to pranayama, we go from the gross to a little more subtle practice. And once you start it, you don't want to stop when you see the effect that it has in your life.